Okay, so we've reviewed some of the processes that form sedimentary and igneous rock. We've looked at where that energy comes from and how they can change from one to the other. So we're going to go back to the cards that we looked at in the very beginning for our do first and try and write a written argument about what might happen to a rock if it is exposed to energy from the sun or Earth's interior over millions of years. I'm going to write the first one with you. And then for the second one, you're going to have some sentence starters. And for the third one, you will be completely on your own. So make sure you're following this model about how to write your actual response. So in my first writing prompt, the rock sample I'm looking at is this igneous rock right here. And my prompt is, what would happen if the rock sample pictured above was first exposed to energy from the sun and then millions of years later to energy from Earth's interior? So I know I have to answer both parts of this. What's going to happen if it's first exposed to energy from the sun? And then what's going to happen again if millions of years later it is exposed to energy from Earth's interior? For my actual writing, I want to make sure that I'm including words from this word bank. I know it's kind of blocked right now, but you will be able to see that word bank on the next slide when I actually do my writing, and you'll actually get to see it while you're doing your writing as well. So I'm going to check those words off as I use them in my answer. Here's my word bank up here. I want to make sure I'm using those 5 vocab words in my answer. I'm going to start off with a sentence stem that actually repeats what my question is asking me. So, if the rock sample pictured above was first exposed to energy from the sun, again, I just repeated my question there when I rewrote my question into a sentence stem. Then it would go through weathering from rain and wind and turn into sediment. So already here, I have 3 different vocab words used: energy from the sun, I have weathering, and I have sediment. So I'm describing what happens to a rock that goes through energy from the sun. My next part is what it would turn into. This would cause it to transform into sedimentary rock. We know that rock that goes through, or material that goes through weathering and then turns into sediment, will turn eventually into sedimentary rock. That was the first part of my question of what happens if it's exposed to the sun. Energy from the sun is always going to form sedimentary rock. My next part is what would happen if millions of years later it was exposed to energy from the Earth's interior. So my sentence stem reads, then millions of years later, if it was exposed to energy from the Earth's interior, then it would melt and turn into magma. Once again, I'm going to check off the words that I've used. I've used energy again down here. I've used magma right here. I've used melt or melting right here. And so I've used all of my vocab words so far because I used sediment and weathering earlier in this, as well as energy. So now I can finish my claim. If I'm having rock that melts and turns into magma, eventually this would cause it to change back into igneous rock. So what I can do in here is actually look at one rock sample and see how it would cause a lot of change over millions of years. Anytime it gets exposed to energy from the sun, like we said in our do first, then that would be creating a sedimentary rock. Anytime it's exposed to energy from deep within the earth and melts it, it would be creating igneous rock. So over the course of its lifetime, the same material could actually be changing from igneous rock to sedimentary rock and then back to igneous rock. Your next prompt is going to be the same as the one I had with a different rock sample and maybe a different order of energy exposure. What you're going to do first is answer the next one using the sentence stems that I have here. All the sentence stems are in black. Anything in green is what you're going to be on your own to write about and fill in for me. And then after that, you're going to write one entirely on your own. When you write it on your own, you should be using the same sentence stems, and you should be writing about a paragraph for that answer. You don't have a ton of work to actually write in today, so make sure when you go and write the one on your own, because that's the one I'm going to be really looking at, you are taking your time and giving these sentence stems and writing it in complete sentences, so you should have about a paragraph done. After that, we'll look at a really quick diagram, and that'll be the end of your class. But right now, I want us to focus on our writing prompts that you have in the next section.